line, but still inbounds, resetting to the middle with Morse. Hoagie's continued his run, he's downfield now. Nice change of direction, gives a little bit of separation, but not enough. Hoagie looks it off. Eric and Neve doing some good defensive work to close down that margin. Cutting through the gap, not enough space, and it's waved at, painted the bottom of the disc with the fingertips, but creates a gap and creates a space, and deep space put in their own clean offensive hold as well.
Looks very frustrated there in the end, did Rachel Turton, because she got very close to tipping that one away, and they would have got a few yards with it as well. The opportunity for the fast break, but as you mentioned, could only just about touch the end of the disc with her fingertips. And Layla Denniston, they'll see them look for Layla deep early and often. They did it earlier in the point, and Sam Vile, then you see it just about gets away with this one. Denniston's catching it on the just, well, not quite on the end zone line, but just in front of it. A couple of defenders overcommit to the break side, and Gus Morse catches one of the easiest goals he will ever catch, and we're tied up at 1 apiece.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about SMOG. Not new anymore, but they came out of the north probably 5 years ago. Is it now, Benji?
Yeah, the proverbial northern powerhouse, coming out of a lot of those universities in the northeast, places like York, Newcastle, Durham. So there was a lot of talent up in that area of the country, and there wasn't necessarily a team that was kind of matching their ambitions at that top level of UK Ultimate. And originally we saw them a lot in the Open division, and then they kind of changed tack and decided that they wanted to play mixed. And it's really good seeing a club that, as you mentioned, is still relatively young, has put themselves as a real name, not just in the UK, but European, as that is a monster of a pool.
Absolutely, brilliant pool. He was hoping it was going to roll out, but it didn't. So SMOG, with all the difficulty of starting right at the back of their own end zone, but they've worked it out forward, and we see Harry Tidswell with the cap on, working it backwards. Richard Tanner-Smith.
So when I was getting the rosters, I was explained that his name is actually Richard, but he tends to go by Ollie.
Ollie, okay, we'll work with Ollie. And is that the 11 shirt of Tom Lees, played on the beach in GB Mixed in the European Beach Championships.
Yeah, often known by his nickname Yellow.
Oh, that's going to catch an edge. Didn't quite stay up in the air long enough. It would have been the perfect shot, and it not just dived into the turf. And for the second game in a row, we see one of the Thompson sisters on the field. This time Helen Thompson playing for SMOG. Her sister Becky has just come off the field, having taken the silver medal in the women's division for Iceni. Deep space with Hamer, making it down to Duncan. And the disc forward to Marius Hutchison goes to ground. Not quite the connection they were looking for. So 2 turnovers in this point already, and SMOG back in possession. Thompson with that cut up the line gets looked off, and instead the disc goes to Hyde in the middle. Now to that on the far side is Thompson. Looking to reset, finding it difficult to reset, and Hutchison reads it better. The communication wasn't quite there as Tom Lees and Helen Thompson get a little bit caught up in each other's. Just never took her eyes off him. But
yeah, I think Tom Lees was just expecting there's not a huge amount of space to get that throw off there, so I'm going to back away, take the reset, maybe get a bit more central as well. But Hutchison realised that throw's going up, and he's there to knock it out of the sideline. And now deep space have another break opportunity.
Nick Moss on the sideline finds a forward pass. The 88 shirt of Senier. Duncan, blast on down to the near side, and it's Tim Gilboy sliding in the front corner for a break for deep space.
First blood to the Londoners, Tom. The first offensive possession for SMOG was so calm and so collected, and then that time, deep space, okay, that didn't work, we'll try something different. And they really struggled to get those easy resets off. And SMOG have got a very confident handling core, but if you're continually forcing teams to reset the disc, especially in slightly blustery conditions, the more passes you make, the more chance there is of something like that happening where you get maybe a miscommunication or just a slight throwing error, and that time Deep Space were able to capitalise.
Senier feeding the disc downfield, and it was Duncan with the assist in the end.
And it just lasers that one to the front cone. Tidswell's close, but he's not quite close enough.
So Deep Space have had a fantastic weekend here in Nottingham. We're at the Highfield Sports Ground, part of Nottingham University's campus. University Boulevard is just behind the field. You might see the occasional tram wandering backwards and forwards. And beyond those trees is the wonderful Parkland campus of Nottingham University. You occasionally can see the Trent Building Tower on the horizon.
Anyone would think that you are a Nottingham native, Tom.
Yes, they would, wouldn't they? So Deep Space on D. Can they keep this pressure up on SMOG? The number 2 seeds in the tournament. Reading with the number 1 seeds. They've already been knocked out by Deep Space. So the London side are in good form here as Hyde and Thompson connect and back again, and the two of them just playing a little bit of 1-2, and they continue that up the field. Thompson with the disc now. Expansive throw out to the wing, and a first chance to see Tessa Hunt, the speedster for this SMOG line. You'll see her numerous occasions today, no doubt. Flicking it to Hunt, she got the wheels to get there, no need to dive, just put the extra couple of paces in. And eating up the ground to hold the possession for SMOG.
I think when SMOG have made it work, it just looks so effortless. You know, they can orchestrate the tempo, they slow it down and pick it up. They can run through the middle, or they can swing it out wide. And you know, Tessa Hunt's got pace to burn. Going to chase that down, no problem. The thing that really impressed me that point more than anything else was when you just had Hyde and Thompson just basically running the gauntlet halfway down the field. They didn't seem interested at all in the 12 other players on the pitch. And so often when you see a player poached and not being marked, the temptation is, oh, I'll just take off and I'll go deep because obviously I'm free. But actually, you can burgle a fair few yards just by playing it between yourselves before the defense has a chance to get set. And if you're clearing right the way out, that often gives defenders a chance to flash in and sit in that space that you want to attack.
So that was a hold for SMOG. So 2-2 is the score. I'm not sure who the assist came from there.
It was from Bennett again, I think.
Hoagie. Deep Space in the black. It's the mixed division final. Manages to squeeze a disc through to Vile. Back to Vile now. Front corner available. Back to Hoagie. There's a strong connection between these two players. Vile changing directions, trying to skip forward. Bit of a straddle being called. He's flicked it over the space. Only had eyes for Sam Vile the whole time.
Audacious. It's audacious from Hogan. I think, you know, he saw that, as you mentioned, Carl O'Connor-Hill was being very aggressive with that force. It's in close. And you mentioned it could have been a straddle. It could have been wrapping. So that, you know, when you get close, you know, obviously you put the pressure on, but if you commit marking infractions, you've got to correct them. You've got to drop the stall. It gives the thrower a bit more time. And the fact that he was back to away a little bit then means that Connor Hogan can go for that, you know, that cheeky offhand high release lefty. This was and just somehow threading it through to Vile in a space where I thought there was none. And as you mentioned, he's only got eyes for Vile here, but you know, when you can release the disc like that, why not?
It was a straddle. He correctly called it. Had to take the step off.
The defender marking Vile, just, I think he's thinking that Vile's going to stay towards the backfield. So he's just sitting in that space a little bit to prevent the cut back out. And Vile notices that and says, that's fine by me. I'll take the space deep. They're in a very tight stack in the end zone, so that break side is wide open for Vile to attack. And Hogan's throw is pure perfection.
So deep space, one break up here. It's 3-2 in the mixed Nationals final. The breeze coming from our right as you look at the screen. Shouldn't affect the game too much. It has been fluttering, but this is not the typical Nottingham venue where we play, which is nicknamed the Wind Farm because it is so breezy, as Tessa Hunt launches one deep, but there's going to be some pressure underneath this. Oh, just went up a little bit too early. The fingertips were there. The defensive pressure.
Yeah, often we see Hunt as a deep target, but that time she wound up the arm and uncorked a bomb to Alice Hanton. But as you mentioned, the disc just tailed away from her at the last moment and she couldn't quite grasp it.
Some pointing going on between the deep space handlers. A flick goes forward and safely into the hands of Nick Moss. Big arm opens up. Tim Gilboy providing the shot, and the target is there. Duncan collects a point to go with his assist from earlier, and that is a break for deep space. They're 2 up in the breaks, and they're 4-2 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, the first break of the game was Duncan throwing to Gilboy, and now for the second break of the game, it's Gilboy throwing to Duncan. The roles reversed, and I think Codd's sitting underneath. He's baiting that deep shot. He's saying, you're going to have to be accurate going towards that sideline, but Gilboy was more than equal to the task, and you're seeing there, it just goes up early, can't quite hang up enough, and it tails away, gets the wrong edge. And then, yeah, Nick Moss finds Gilboy underneath in plenty of space. And when you've got a player of this quality with no mark on, and they see deep cuts going, those deep balls are going up. And what a deep ball it was as well.
All this coverage being brought to you by ULTI.TV, and if you would like to support the work of ULTI.TV, then you can join our Patreon, as did Aidan Murray. Thank you very much, Aidan. Just become our latest member, contributing each month for the coverage of Ultimate in the UK, in Europe and around the world.
We appreciate everyone's patronage, no matter how much it may be, and if you are not able to contribute financially, which I understand a lot of people are not necessarily in a position to do in these sorts of times, even just, you know, interacting with us in the chat, getting involved on the socials, things like that, or even if it's just watching the coverage and lurking where no one can see you, it's greatly appreciated. It's always brings a huge smile to our face to see how many people are out there enjoying this, enjoying what has been a phenomenal Festival of Ultimate this weekend. Oh, here we go. Spears with the mark wide off, bombs it deep. Hunt is in acres of space. Wow. If you give Spears the time, if you give Spears the space, he can drop it on a dime.
And just Tessa Hunt, we did say we would see a lot of her as a deep threat. There's not very many players in this division that can get that sort of separation, and she's such an obvious target. Once she's free, never looks like it's anything other than a certainty. So SMOG back again. A great quality final we're seeing here.
There's obviously been some sort of miscommunication from the defense coming down from the pool from deep space, because leaving Spears so wide open from that and then having Hunt just burn past your defenders, there's got to be something that's gone wrong there, because there's no way you should be able to let that happen, because SMOG will take that time and time again, and players of this quality will punish you. They just will punish you. We've seen SMOG be pretty good, generally good on. They've either been really smooth on offense or a little bit clustered, but they haven't been able to really generate the same defensive pressure that they would have liked. We'll see if they can get their first break of the game here. Looking for the underneath to Morse, and Morse centres.
Oh, it has to go with the one-handed grab. Morse keeping it alive. Back to Joyce Kwok, and picked off. Back to SMOG. SMOG sends it deep into the end zone, and they've got a turn back, they've got a break back. It's 4 apiece here.
Well, that's that question answered. Can SMOG find their first break of the game? They can indeed. Emily McCabe is the target there, and just, I think Deep Space kind of choreographed what the plan was there. They had that receiver very isolated in the middle. It was, with the way they were set up, it was clear they were looking for that break, first the inside and then the around, and SMOG were wise to it. See it again on the replay. Swing goes to Morse, who made that very acrobatic grab. It goes back into the middle. They look downfield, and it's just not quite got the right shape on it. And it's very gratefully picked off. And then just a lean out, flick, putting that blade on it to bring it, or keep it in bounds rather, down that far sideline. Perfectly executed by Collier, and we're knotted back up now. It's 4 apiece.
Yeah, Will Collier with the assist. Still one break up for Deep Space, but you will need to hang on. We're watching some high quality mixed ultimate here as we see Rachel Turton send a big disc pull. 4 women on the field, so a woman is the puller, and you can't think of anyone better to pull it than Turton. And SMOG capitalising.
There just seemed to be no real movement going on there, and as the throw itself, it was not a great throw, but it was because there was nothing really going on.
Naden. Rachel Naden again, GB Beach experience. Connecting back to Ollie Gray, finding way forward to Erica Neve. Well, that's going to catch a bit of air. Is there time to get the pressure underneath it? Well read, good boxing out and into the corner. SMOG with a break to go with the one from the previous point. And they are starting to get into their stride in this game. Deep Space, watch your backs.
We are back on serve now, Tom, and as you mentioned, there was a floaty, risky pass, but if you're going to float it up to anyone on the field from a SMOG perspective, Tom Patterson's probably the player to do it, because he has that size to bail it out and slam down that get out of jail free card, and then dishes it into the end zone. Carl O'Connor-Hill makes the catch. He's now, I think, trademark just the catch and drop spike. And SMOG have roared back in this game, and they're really kind of clouding the options for Deep Space. This was very strange. I think she thinks Vile's going to make the up line cut, and then she sees it's not going, and maybe she tries to stop herself, but she can't quite do it in time. And then towards the sideline, they swing the disc off beautifully. This was that popped up swing. It's good pressure underneath it. But Patterson's able to climb the ladder, use all of that 6.5 foot frame, I'd imagine, and then Carl O'Connor-Hill is rightfully pumped. We're back on serve at 5-4 to SMOG.
Well, wherever you're watching, we hope you're enjoying the action here from Nottingham in the mixed finals. Hoagie finding Hamer on the far side. Layla Dennison. Vile flicks to the end zone, pressure underneath this, and it's better read by SMOG. A point that would have been scored by Deep Space in any other situation is denied with some great end zone aerial work. And back underneath now. And a deep shot going back the other way. Who's underneath it? Is it going to drift towards the far sideline? And it has just got that wrong edge down and just drifts out of bounds. And the threat has gone, and Deep Space have it back.
Most of the SMOG roster have been kind of ever-present in this team for a few seasons now. One of the biggest pickups, I think, across the entire tournament is that Nick Williams has moved from playing in the Open division and is now playing mixed with SMOG. And this time, he's probably giving up a few inches in that matchup to Moores, but he gets up there nice and early, brings it down, but unfortunately the huck deep does not quite off target. What a shame for someone considered to be the nicest man in Ultimate.
Yeah, Nick Williams, ex-Chevron, now plying his trade for SMOG. It's going to be very close to the sideline, but just kept in. Very athletic work from Nina.
What I loved as well, the SMOG players on the sideline were there, instantly pointed that it was in. Why waste any time?
Vile making a lovely cut up the line, lovely cut, and the disc just didn't stay flat for him. He'll be frustrated with that. Could see the opportunity and the window is closing quickly. Tried to get it out. Didn't quite execute the way he needed to. Yeah, perhaps he rushed the throw it had. What's happened is that he's put too much angle on the disc. It's too bladey. It's got too much of that outside in shape. Whereas actually it probably just needs to be a bit flatter and out into space.
when you've got a receiver who had a couple of steps deep in, like Morse did, you know, you don't necessarily have to kind of spear it right on the chest. You can put it out in front and let them chase it down.
Collier for SMOG stretches to the other side where he finds Rachel Turton, who tries to find a gap that got closed off quickly by Vile. Vile now cutting around. He's got the disc back. He dumps it back again to Morse. Options running forward are few and far between for deep space at the moment. There's no one really threatening the end zone, and the handlers, and Vile desperately trying to make something happen here. Has he made something happen? No, he hasn't. He's provided an option which was caught in the breeze and turned around. Deep space in that red zone, but really not as effective as they needed to be. And now a shot going back the other way. Williams the target, but what a block that is. Gus Morse reaches out an arm and gets the applause from Nick Williams.
And I think just a little bit of laughing and slap hands, but I tell you what, Morse seemed to be able to crack the code there. What a bid from Morse. Holy cow. After deep space, they, you know, it was all of their own making. The end zone offense was pretty stagnant. The blade goes up and it catches the wind, but what a play this is from Morse. I think in the past, in previous years, deep space have maybe not necessarily been as athletic as their opponents, but I tell you what, this team packs some athletes on the roster now.
Hogan to Vile. Vile looking back to Hogan. Instead, he finds a disc across to Phil Sandwell. Sandwell into the middle. A little bit of poaching, but Joanna Hamer comes down with the disc in hand. Hogan again puts on the burners. But he's got some close attention, and eventually the disc is relief is found through Vile.
There's a stoppage here, potentially a foul.
Quite sure what the conversation could be about, to be honest, Benji.
Yeah, I felt like she had Joe Hamer had the disc for a while, but obviously no stall-out call. Sandvar did make the signal for a foul, and I'm assuming it's uncontested in play.
Vile
is checked back in.
Across to Nina. Nina looking upfield. There's a good cut there. Straight up the middle. Gus Morse, and he continues the cut down the line. He's got a lot of energy to burn, despite the close attention of Williams, who that's going to be providing a good matchup throughout the game. And collision between two players. It's all good. I think it was Turton again running through to try and get a block. Missed the block, was well out of position. Hamer's free on that far wing.
Yeah, I think Denniston then goes to make the grab, and as she's turning around, Erica Neves coming back to also try and put the defensive pressure on. But we're seeing now, the wind's not hugely strong, but it is gusty and it is blustery. And every now and again, we're seeing discs get caught by the wind and pushed up. And that is creating these situations where you're getting players crowded underneath the disc. And that is generally where you do tend to see contact.
So Denniston, Layla Denniston with the disc. She's got Hamer outside her on this wing. Three women handling at the moment for deep space with Nina, who has it now. Hamer's coming back. Vile darting around. Got a quick changes of direction. Manages to get free of the attentions of Will Collier. Gus Morse steadying the ship. Lots of passes in this point. Huge bid comes out, but Denniston comes up with the disc. Hogan coming back into the deep field, the deep space, if you like, and a pick is called. Back to Denniston.
Can I use the phrase? Can I say the thing, Tom?
Yeah, say it.
It was suspiciously open.
Suspiciously open.
I have to get that in once again. It's really interesting to see the matchups that SMOG have picked, because in terms of, you know, the height, Williams is not necessarily maybe the best matchup for Morse, but I think they've seen something they like in getting the length, marking Phil Sandwell, one of their key handlers.
Deep shot to Morse. No mistakes this time. That deep shot has been eluding deep space, catching the breeze, but not on this occasion. Gus Morse comes down with it, and they level it up at 5 apiece.
There was one huck earlier where it bladed too early, the other one where it kind of got too late and the wind got underneath it. That time he seemed to have been able to split the difference, and finding Morse in the end zone to catch the goal. This is what I mentioned. Williams is crazy athletic, but so is Morse, and maybe, you know, if the receiver's got a little bit of position and they've maybe got a couple of inches as well, if the throws are good and they're on the money, it's so hard to defend.
See, the air ambulance is here to take your voice to hospital, Benji.
Mate, honestly, I do not understand why. It was like 2 games yesterday, and it was croaked, and I am so infuriated as to why that should be the case, because I feel like I've done basically nothing. And it's honestly...
You're used to doing 7 games a day, Benji. This whole 3-game national championships has obviously ruined your flow.
Well, this is the thing, right? Oh, cheeky little toss pass on the reset there from Hogan. Ooh, this was after a stoppage. Yeah, it's because I'm so used to just doing 1 game a week now that suddenly coming in and doing 4 games a day is too much. As there's the replay of the score.
There's a great disc by Nina as well. We didn't shout her out at the time, but it was superb work. We've got over 300 people watching live. We'd love to make that more. And if you are watching, you can help. Just grab that link from the top, do the sharey thing, put it on your Insta, put it on your Facebook, wherever you want to share it. Tell your friends. And we'd love to get the numbers watching the ULTI.TV coverage up as SMOG send a deep shot down again. Tessa Hunt the target, and again Tessa Hunt is the successful scorer. The deep shot from Thomas Bennett, absolute perfection, adding to his 2 assists from previous points. They're very dominant deep.
I saw that cut develop from the halfway line, and I was pleading for Bennett to put it, because it was there for it. The question was whether or not he was able to pull the trigger and get the execution available. And if you've got Tessa Hunt streaking deep and you've got the space to throw it, I think you'd be mad not to. Here we go. Just seeing again, just takes a little bit, maybe overcommits slightly to get the force set on, and that gives Bennett the time. There's not pressure on that backhand. He can put it out, set it into space. Hunt's more than got the gas to chase it down.
How do you mark out a player that fast? It's not like a case of, well, who should we put on Tessa Hunt? It's like, even if you put the fastest player out there on Tessa Hunt, she's still probably going to be fast.
Well, this may not surprise people who know me, but maybe we're thinking about it wrong, rather than saying which one person do we want to take out Tessa Hunt. It's a difficult, it's as you mentioned, it's not necessarily impossible, but it's incredibly difficult. Maybe you need to play better. You need to, rather than focus on getting one-on-one, you need to have that team defense. You need to have that communication from the sideline. You need to have people flash into lanes, adjust their positioning slightly, so that rather than saying it's all on you to stop this player, actually you're thinking how can we as a team shut down the offense around it.
Smart words from Benji Rees.
First time for everything.
Deep space with the disc. They trail SMOG 1. It's 6-5, and SMOG have got the disc back with another turnover. Rachel Naden looks deep. She's going to have to get a high stall count disc out, and she does, into the hands of Ollie Gray. Wow, that's a big bid required. Williams, it's Patterson. Andy Patterson resets. Naden's on the far side. Jostling in the front corner to get free. Lovely low release break. Turton, another low release break. And somehow, I'm not sure if that was the intended target, went to Ollie Gray. He was horizontal. He didn't get the clean grab. Vile, threatens the big shoulder.
Yeah, really pumped that fake, and with SMOG, just 2 receivers going towards the same place. There's 2 defenders there, and they can't squeeze it through the traffic.
Joyce now for deep space. A little bit of too much close contact from Natasha. Sorry, is it Natasha?
I think it's Emily McCabe on the mark.
That's a good disc. Oh, a terrible pass. Just rushed it too much. And
it was very much, there's a player here. We need to just... It seems like a simple throw to space, but
yes,
evidently just rushed it. And even if it's it's the right throw, sometimes the disc just doesn't sit right in your hand, it's better to holster it. Although obviously hindsight is 2020.
Williams with the disc for SMOG, finding a very free Rachel Naden, and she's got space in the end zone to target. Oh, a beautiful disc right across the arcing path of Joyce and into deep space hands, and they have got a 2-point margin with a break.
Beautiful put from Rachel Naden, and Emily McCabe is there to cash that check in. What a put, and afterwards, you can see Naden's waiting, pleading for it to be caught, and then streaks down the field in celebration afterwards. Quite rightly pleased with her work. And SMOG, they were a little bit shaky early on, but they've fought back strong in this game, and now they've got a 2-point lead, and they're threatening to take half here. There was a huge layout D earlier in the point, but on that occasion, unfortunately for SMOG, it came to nothing, despite this phenomenal bid from Andy Patterson. If I may steal a cliche from football, demonstrating a great feat for a big man there, getting low to keep that one alive, and then Turton with the lowest of low release breaks, but too much traffic there to sneak it through. And Williams finding Naden with the under, and Naden sees McCabe going deep. She's deep already, but they've got confidence and they back themselves to make these pinpoint precision throws, and the confidence is certainly justified.
So 3 breaks in the last 5 points for SMOG. They've in fact, Deep Space have only scored 1 of the last 6 points.
Indeed, they were 4-2 up, and now they're 7-5 down. So the game's getting away from them in a hurry, and this is the thing with SMOG, is I remember in the Nationals final, it would have been 2 years ago in 2019, last time we had this event, over at the Moor Lane Sports Ground in Birmingham, that it was a SMOG Deep Space final there. And Deep Space, I think, went up a little bit early, and then SMOG were just able to apply the hammer down for a bit, and Deep Space had no answer. Could this game be going the same way?
Well, Deep Space are a class side. They've got a lot of experience in their ranks, a lot of players with GB credentials or Irish national team credentials in the case of Conor Hogan.
Yeah, quite a lot of international representation as well on Deep Space, to be fair.
Yeah, and SMOG too. I mean, the number of names from the GB mixed beach side playing with SMOG is numerous.
Yeah, and
Lees and Turton.
Players on the GB mixed outdoor squad that took gold in that dramatic EUC final as well.
Contact made, uncontested.
Alex Greer just getting a little bit touchy-feely on the mark, which is a strange thing to do in the times we've had over the past couple of years.
Well, Conor Hogan is a very attractive man. Hamer puts the disc behind the outstretched arms of Sam Vile, but reaches down. She's available for the reset as well. Flows it across to Hoagie instead. Down that far line is available. Denniston is there, cutting. But Hoagie goes deep. He's got Gus Morse in space. Williams chasing it. Sorry, not Williams chasing it.
It's Patterson who was on the D, but he was not close enough. Often when players are already quite deep, the temptation is not to throw it, because you want to have the opportunity to put it out in front. If the cup's already quite deep when it starts, you don't necessarily have a whole lot of room to work with. But Hogan just had the ability to wind up that arm, and I think the deep games for both sides so far in this final have been very impressive.
Well, we're within 1 of the half time, and the mixed final is turning out to be an absolute cracker. The UK Ultimate National Championships here from the Highfield Sports Ground, part of Nottingham University. You can see the Nottingham tram just drifting across the back of our camera in the field there. Bit of tram cam action for those of you who are on playing some sort of tram-based drinking game.
Hey, I'm a big fan of trams. They are economical, they are environmentally friendly, and they are just fundamentally cool. That's my opinion.
There we go.
Thank you very much. With the marks for SMOG, they've got this. Occasionally they're really close and really aggressive, and then other times they're very far away, and that's allowing the hucks to go up. And they need to find that middle ground where they're applying pressure without getting too drawn in.
Helen Thompson, a great coverage there from Deep Space, preventing that first shot to Tom Lees, but it's available now. Lees looks deep and sends the arm. There's going to be some pressure underneath this, closing down. Great ups, some contact made. Is there going to be a conversation here?
No, there is not. I think there was maybe a word, do you think so? Yes, no. And in the end, Codd says, no, fair enough. Turnover stands.
Let's have a look at this. Eddie Codd is the receiver target. The defensive pressure coming from Matt. I think in the end, it was a very difficult disc to catch. Codd not connecting cleanly with it. And no complaint about the presence of the defender. So deep space with a chance now to break to get themselves back to 7-all and Galaxy Point.
Oh yes, love to see it. Any Galaxy Point fans in chat? I hope so.
Downfield shot from deep space. Pressure, sliding. It's Callum Spears sliding through to get the block. Perhaps not quite enough attack on the deep space receiver.
It was a really tight coverage, and I think the throw probably shouldn't have gone.
Hyde and Thompson were both free there. The option was Hyde. Now goes across to Grossman. Back across to Lees. Oh, just picks out a better read of the disc and really great awareness for deep space.
Yoink.
A touch of the hands, and it's back into the hands of Codd. Several turnovers this point already.
Codd had a good long think about putting that disc deep to Lucy Hyde, and in the end, discretion is the better part of valor, I guess.
Lees. Thompson available. Very low disc. Ava Grossman goes to the turf. Callum Spears. Lee's available. Oh, it's just touched off the hands. He'll be disappointed with that mistake from Harry Tidswell.
Maybe just a touch too much Tabasco on that underpass, and it somehow squirted its way through his grip. And Max Tobiashevich is going to call the timeout there for deep space.
So 7-6 the score here. Deep space with 3 breaks, deep space with 2. And deep space just looking a little bit more composed in this point, Benji, but both sides plenty of turns. We've had 3 turnovers now per team. And
I think using the timeout here is a good call. You've got both teams have 2 to use each half, and if you don't use them, you don't get to take them with you into the next half. It's just 2. So you may as well take one here if you're deep space thinking, we can set up a play here, we can get this break in, and then we go into Galaxy Point. If we break there, we start the second half on offense. You know, you can do the old 2 for none. You get 2 possessions back to back without the opponent getting a sniff in.
I'd like to say thanks to all the people commenting and watching online on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you wherever you are watching. Just let us know who you're cheering for, especially if you're overseas. If you're not in the UK, to let us know where you're watching from. I can see some European names in the Ted Butte is there.
Ted.
And Aidan Murray, one of our Patreon backers. Mr. David Price is in the comments. If you are watching overseas, do let us know. Also, for free, just go and click that little thumbs up button. It really helps YouTube to highlight the good work that ULTI.TV are doing over here. And myself, Tom Styles, alongside Benji Rees, bringing you this UK Ultimate Mixed Championship final between Deep Space in the black shirts and SMOG 1 specifically.
Because they beat SMOG 2, their counterparts, in the semi-final.
Yes. Deep Space knocking Reading out in their semi. That was the 4 seed knocking out the 1 seed, and it was a fantastic match streamed earlier today. You can go back and watch that on the ULTI.TV YouTube channel if you wish to do so. Right now, Tobiashevich throws a disc into space, and somehow it comes down in Deep Space hands. Catch your D's, people. That's
Catch
why.
your D's. How many times do we have to say it?
Oh, what a pass into the far corner. And Deep Space, with absolutely no right to walk away with a point, have suddenly done so. 7 apiece, and it's Galaxy Point, Benji.
Catch your D's, people. I am literally going to shout myself hoarse saying it. And, you know, there were 3 defenders curled underneath that, and somehow all they could do was just tip it right into the receiver's path. But, you know, way to make the most of an opportunity. What a throw. Pinpoint precision, picking out Smad on the far sideline. I mean, good Lord, it was a risky look. They came up with catch your breath. They came up with a side stack out of that timeout. SMOG recognised it. They had Helen Thompson sitting in that space. So with the pressure there, the throw, they're trying to get a little bit more aerial so they can have a receiver kind of win the high matchup over the poaching defender. But it swirls. 3 other defenders converge underneath it. Somehow it ends up in deep space hands. And now we're in Galaxy Point, Tom. Very appropriate, perhaps, for a team named Deep Space. But my voice is really going now. Apologies, everyone.
Seven aside. Seven aside. It is 7 aside, 7 aside. It's 7 aside. Just like to say thank you to all of the UK Ultimate team who've made this tournament possible and have been so accommodating for the whole of the ULTI.TV crew. Rob Henderson, Milan, Felix, Chips are all up here alongside the commentary team. Helen Thompson shows her power and sends it downfield. Harry Tidswell continues the cut and he scores it. But the pass from Thompson was what made that for SMOG. And Deep Space, having been threatening to go on a little run of their own, have that snuffed out with some impressive SMOG possession, a quick offensive hold, and they take the half. That
was silky smooth from SMOG. You know, Becky, Helen Thompson. I knew I was going to do that once this game. I'm incredibly frustrated with myself. Helen Thompson, as you mentioned, sees Tom Bennett going deep, and usually we see Bennett in the backfield, and that's maybe why he's got a couple of steps on his defender there, because they're not necessarily expecting that deep cut. But I think good teams have the ability to be multiple, and when I mean that, I say that, you know, they don't, obviously, they'll have positions where people will prefer to play. You will tend to see certain people behind the disc, other people kind of in the middle. Certain players are more used to being deep cutters. But really good teams, you can move those players around to take advantage of matchups or kind of expectations. And it gives the defenders so much more to think about, because if you've got someone who's usually a handler, for example, like Bennett is, you're thinking, we'll put a really good mark on, we'll put a really good handler defender on, someone who, you know, maybe does not necessarily have the raw pace, but it's maybe a little bit more shifty, or is known for putting a really good mark on. But then if you can say, well, this guy's not usually used to marking cutters going deep, and you can pick up on that, and you can get that deep put going, you create so many more problems defensively.
So SMOG taking the half 8-7. And you've got to mention, actually, Tom Bennett is with 4 assists so far in this game. Apart from Tessa Hunt with her 3 scores, it's been a fairly even split of the stats. Emily McCabe with 2 scores of her own. And we'd just like to show you a quick promo for all of the good work that ULTI.TV are doing around UK, Europe and the world.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and fund our work
to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
Yep. Welcome to our booth. Myself, Tom Stiles, alongside Benji Rees, and we are a little bit chilly, but we're enjoying the coverage because the coverage has been hot. And we saw a little bit there about ULTI.TV. ULTI.TV have been behind the scenes for very many years, providing all the coverage for Fanseat. And they were out. They've been all over Europe. They've been out to world clubs in Cincinnati. Now you can fund ULTI.TV's coverage directly. All of their coverage is always going to go free to air on YouTube to watch live and forever. But now you can become a Patreon and support that coverage directly with a small monthly donation. You become a member or a super member, and there's various different tiers you can contribute. Obviously, not everybody can contribute, so we appreciate you sharing any coverage that you watch on your social media to boost the awareness of people watching it. But if you would like to support it directly, and putting on this sort of coverage costs a fair amount of money, even without paying anybody. Just the food, the transportation, and the expenses for getting everybody here for the weekend is quite dear. And we really appreciate all the Patreons who've put the money behind the supporting the sport and the development of the coverage. Down on field now, Hoagie with the disc for deep space, sends a flick, it's going to hang, lovely put for Dennison, and she collects it. Rachel Turton was in hot pursuit, but she could not match the speed of Dennison once she was free.
I mean, that's because it's very difficult to do, even for a defender as good as Rachel Turton. And Hogan's caused them all sorts of problems with his throwing ability. If you just give him that little bit of space on the mark, he's more than happy to put up anything and everything to the wider range of very tempting targets that deep space have in the deep space. And that mark from Carlo Collar-Hill is just not quite close enough. He's got the foot there in the way to try and go for the foot block, but Hogan's unfazed by it. And Denniston has 2 or 3 steps on Rachel Turton, and it's so difficult to close because Denniston uses her height well, both in kind of in boxing out and in making high grabs, but also, you know, you just cover ground a bit more quickly when you've got longer legs. Unfortunately, I know this too well because I have to run twice as hard as anyone else to cover the same distance. So, you know, just having that little extra advantage really does help.
You can see the Nottingham Hockey Centre. The Nottingham Hockey Centre is one of these advanced hockey places. It doesn't have rubber crumb or sand-based pitches. It has water-based pitches, which they have to spray like that. So every half an hour when they're using them, just to keep them loaded. Tessa Hunt opens up the arm. Lucy Hyde the target. Oh, what a connection that is from halfway down the field. Tessa Hunt is usually lurking in that end zone herself, but she shows what a threat she is with the disc in hand. And Lucy Hyde, the grateful recipient, SMOG with a quick score.
A thing of beauty when it works for SMOG. It is so good to watch. And we talked about it at half-time. Something that SMOG do well is they are multiple. They have this multiplicity where you can have, you know, your handlers go deep and they're a threat, and you can have your deep threat. You can have your deep threats come under, and then they can bomb it deep themselves. And as you mentioned, because everyone can do everything, it's so much harder to match up against, you know, because you can't kind of pigeonhole players in like, okay, this is the handler, here's our best handler defender, this is the deep threat, here's our best kind of deep defender, because they're quick enough to recognise that, and then they will do the opposite and take advantage of that. And so you need to try and work out, if we can't find one player to shut down that matchup, how can we change the defence as a team to maybe switch things up? And, you know, the first point of the game, actually, deep space came out in zone, so maybe they were wary of that. But then SMOG just shredded it, so deep space, where do you turn?
It was a buttery smooth backhand from Tessa Hunt. Benji Reiths with some high-quality analysis, and he's really struggling through for us here with these boys. So we very much appreciate the hours that he spends behind the microphone bringing you the coverage, and what a touch that is. Just a little bit too much pressure, maybe a tad bit casual from deep space, closing in on that disc, and a chance to get the first break of this second half for SMOG now. Looking for something low release. Patterson with the disc. Patterson tries to find something inside. That was not the intended target, surely.
Visionary Tom Styles. I mean, I don't know what you're on about. No, you're right. I think it probably was not the target. But this is why you need to keep that head on a swivel, so you know that if there are any overthrows or whatever, you're there. And that's maybe one of the advantages of putting discs out at the break side, is because defenders generally are going to be all on the open side. You know, even if the disc is a little off target, any backup is more likely to be first on the spot.
So 10-8 the score to SMOG. 10-8 is the score. Let's see this turnover again. It was just a little bit casual, and
I mean, it's a phenomenal block from Alex Greer. You cannot undersell, or no, you cannot oversell how good a block that is. I mean, he's coming from the weak side, and he's got to get he's got to get a hand in there and just mack it on from the trailing edge. That is so difficult to do, and he's done it immaculately. And then Collier is just ready and waiting. And, you know, not only is he there as backup, but he also had the presence of mind to make sure that he's keeping his feet behind the line at the front of that end zone as well, so it's a score.
Yes, not taking anything away from the defence there. It was an impressive layout, rear edge knock. And this disc is going to drift. Is it going to stay in? It is going to stay in. It's a great hang in the wind. Sam Vile for deep space now. Oh, he's going to have a look downfield. He sees Dennison. Rachel Naden just giving a little bunch, but Dennison holds the ground and moves forward onto that disc. Baker now. Back to Vile, who stumbles and loses his footing, but still manages to get the disc up. And Hogan is cutting into the space. He's going to have to go, and the ground tumbles as Hogan goes diving across it, sliding with the one hand out. He is not the player you expect to see taking one-handed layout grabs, but my goodness, he meant that one.
Here's the thing, right, with players of this quality, you give them opportunities and they're going to take them. I mean, you all know for many years of watching Clapham how many times Thrash scored up line because people are like, he's not going to, and then he just goes. Because they know, they wait for you to, these players, they wait for you to switch off, and they're ready for it. This is the deep shot to Denniston. All the good work is done about here. And, you know, the actual reception itself, it's just a simple clap catch because she boxes out Naden so early, and Naden never has a bit at it. This one, it swirls a little bit. I feel like I've seen Sam Vile kind of do that little pop-up and grab a number of times over the years, and then sees Hogan go. Has space to really kind of toss up that backhand, and Hogan, what a bid. I'll tell you what, do you think Hoagie's excited? I think he might be.
Oh, he was so pumped about that. I think it's that shot of adrenaline you get just before you know, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to go here. And then when you do come up with the disc, the relief and the joy, celebrating that with your team means a lot. You can see it written all over Hoagie's face.
I think we'll probably be seeing that one on his YouTube channel.
Yes, he does. He does have a very, very nice. And lots of love for Hoagie and the chat as well. The Irish national player for several years, now based out of London.
We talked about maybe what Deep Space could do differently defensively. Maybe they've taken that on board because they're now trying a zone. Just, you know, we're not working with the one-on-one matchups. Let's just throw something in there just to try and disrupt their rhythm.
Spears over the top, a little bit of too much presence on the deep, but that was so easy for SMOG. Just looking up, and nice, calm, competent zone offense from the team from the north. And they take back that 2-point margin, 11-9.
Just the casual shrug of the shoulders from Tom Bennett. Act like you've been there before, I guess. And you know what? This game he certainly has. That's what, his 5th assist now? He's all over the stat sheet for SMOG, and Spears and Bennett. I mean, they've done this so many times for various different teams over the years. Just a little toss and throw and catch. Bennett has the position. He has the height. He goes up, gets a little bit of a bump, but nothing really too untoward, and in the end just a simple dish into Ava Grossman, and SMOG will restore that 2-point advantage at 11-9. Time beginning to tick away for Deep Space. They're going to need to try and get back some breaks quickly.
Indeed they will, Benji. Yeah, Tom Bennett, 5 assists. It's going very, very well. It's an impressive female line for SMOG. You can't deny that. Ava Grossman played on the beach as the GB Women's captain. Rachel Turton, GB Mixed gold medalist, who
caught the winning score in the most dramatic fashion possible.
Breaking a wrist in the process.
Yeah, towing it in on the sideline and breaking a wrist in the process. I mean, talk about agony and ecstasy. That time they were one and the same.
And Hogan again opens up the wrist and sends it deep, or just enough defensive pressure from SMOG. Huge layout. I don't think there was any contact with the disc, Benji, but when you see that hand flying across, let's have a look at this replay again. Hogan's deep shot goes down No, I don't think she.
I think it's got to go down as a drop, I'm afraid, Tom. It's just, as you mentioned, you know, especially when it comes late at the last minute, it flashes across your eye line and you just lose sight of the disc for a split second, especially because SMOG are wearing white, it catches your attention as well.
Disc across to this near side where SMOG with Alex Greer working it down the line. We've got a deep line with Ollie Gray now, centering it to the 44 shirt of Sam Chu. Chu to Naden. Naden's got Williams available. Uses Williams, deep shots looked off, back in the bag.
Yeah, Emily McCabe was already very deep at that point, so would have had to add some muscle behind it to try and find the space at the back of the end zone.
But she's on her bike again now, shooting for that end zone. She's going to have to, oh, she didn't quite have the pace to get on that disc.
I think there was a layout opportunity there, Tom, and I think she knows that there was a layout opportunity there, but maybe thought, oh, it's too far out in front, and then it's agonising when you, oh no, maybe.
There was also an injury opportunity.
Maybe it was there. I think that is also, you know, as we mentioned, sometimes discretion is the better part of valour.
Yeah.
So you need to know when actually that was not there. But that's the reason that deep cut got thrown to and the early one didn't, because it started from a lot, from not as far down the field. So again, there's more space to throw into.
11-9 with deep space making up this 2-point deficit. Hogan, hero from that last point with his layout score.
I think SMOG have cottoned on to the fact that Hogan's throws are a real threat, because now they've shifted Nick Williams onto the mark there.
Yes, he's light foot and he's going to keep him shifting around, but they've got deep threats with Sam Vile. Again, Hogan darting around. What an impressive change of direction that is. Shaking off the attentions of Williams. Spreads the play to the far side where Dennison lurks. Naden coming to take the mark now, but a missed throw from Dennison straight into the hands of SMOG.
Denniston's usually so safe and secure, so that's a bit of an anomaly there.
Cross to Chu. Chu had Williams down the sideline. Naden was there as well. Spreads the play now. It's going to be high. It's going to catch the wind, but just inside the sideline, it's still with SMOG. The only thing available was that reset. There was nothing else cutting in the end zone. Now there's something cutting in the end zone, and a high rise just outside. Hogan covering Williams, but it's SMOG free for another point. And that is a break to the team from the north. They're 3 points clear, Benji. Is this the story of the game, drifting away from deep space?
You feel like it might well be. SMOG won the pool play matchup 15-9. Maybe they're thinking about getting the same scoreline in their sights here. The reason that point's working for SMOG is because they had it trapped on the far sideline, and they're able to swing it out all the way to the far sideline. I mean, literally the full width of the pitch, which is so good at changing the angles of attack. The break swing goes, and the swing to space goes up nice and early. There's plenty of space for the receiver to run it down. And because you've now got a handler with the disc towards that far sideline, it means, and you set the stack quite central, you've actually got a really light, decently sized, like a 4-lane motorway of break side space that you can aim into with all the defenders on the open side, and it's so difficult to cover unless you get defenders shifting around. So you maybe get someone on that break side space nice and early when that swing goes up, because otherwise you have that space to hit it. You can put the throw into space, and the throw's caught for the goal.
Yes, there's a few people in the comments saying this might be game. It's difficult to see from what we've seen from deep space so far, them stringing together the points necessary. They had a strong start to the game. They were 4-2 up. I believe SMOG so far in this second half have looked dominant. There are 2 breaks in the second half are the difference between these two sides. Nice exchange of discs with Tim Gilboy. Sends it down. Joanna Hamer is the target. She's got the disc now. The cut into the end zone didn't go anywhere near the discs. Looking for a space to throw. Can they find something out into the end zone? all three players colliding. It's come down in deep space hands, but someone's got hurt in the process.
Carl O'Connor-Hill took a bit of a pounding there. That was rough.
The disc was to Hutchinson in the, you can see just underneath the disc there, but it's Nick Moss who comes up, and Carl O'Connor-Hill, who was following Hutchinson, gets the full weight of Nick Moss's hip into his shoulder and his face. Very uncomfortable landing. I can't see it being anything other than a point. Can you?
It'd be interesting to see what the discussion is here. And Nick Moss isn't necessarily like a big guy. He's tall, but he's quite
slight.
Yes. But if someone's kind of running at a decent speed and jumping up, and you get a hip in the chest, it's gonna knock you. It's gonna wind you a little bit, regardless.
So the from a foul point of view, this would be could Nick Moss make a bid on that disc without contacting Connor Hill?
It's interesting because of maybe where Connor Hill has to come from, trailing from behind Hutchison as well. It's, the throw was asking for trouble a little bit here.
Well, it was a high stall count, emergency bailout.
And generally, those are when those clusters and those maelstroms tend to happen. Hamer did very well to get free in the deep space. I tend to think of her more as a player operating kind of in the midfield. But she has height and she has a bit of pace, and if you give her the opportunity, she's smart enough to take it.
You see that shot again. Hamer, is it is offhand?
She is lefty.
She is lefty. Okay, so
I think it's just the wind picks it up a little bit and it floats it, and it means that there's a very heavy collision underneath it.
I tell you what, Marius Hutchinson has absolutely dodged two bullets there, hasn't he? Because they were both coming straight at him, and he's flown between the two bodies, come out the other side completely unscathed. So the conversation continues down on field. I've seen this from a couple of angles now, but I don't think it's going to be resolved on field. So it's going to go back to Hamer. You can see both points of view, and even watching that replay a couple of times, both players, only had eyes on the disc. No clear line. There's no way that Connor Hill could have even seen that Nick Moss was making a bid on that disc, or vice versa. So it has gone back to do the only thing it can do, which is reset and deep space, with a chance now at the edge of the end zone with Gilboy, who tries to make the pass through, but the door is shut quickly by Patterson, slams it down to the turf, and SMOG. Things are looking ominous as the clouds form.
I see what you're doing there, Tom. I see what you're doing there. I mean, a layout point block. How good is that? And how good is the block as well there from deep space?
Getting it back. Gilboy continues the cut. It's gone back to Hutchison, who looks into the end zone. Not quite there yet. Deep space, still with options. Nick Moss coaching this near side. Oh, he was going to be so free, but the turn of the handler meant she couldn't see that disc. This time it's available, and Tim Gilboy again making himself available, and to some extent you think that deep space have been let off the hook a little bit there. They're still in this game, trailing by 2.
And they're already doing better than they did in the pool stage matchup where they where they went down at 15-9. They've already scored 10, and they're putting a little bit more pressure on deep space. And you're seeing there the value of the dump swing, that because the angles of attack are continually changing, and here's the layout bid from deep space that got possession back. Oh, I tell you what, that's very tight. Done very well to not make more contact there, because you are continually shifting the disc back and forth. The defenders downfield, they're continually adjusting, they're continually orbiting, kind of changing their position relative to the player they're marking to try and make sure that they're never giving an easy option available. And eventually, if you keep doing it, someone's going to be a step late, a beat late, and that's how you get that cut from Gilboy going clear to the front cone for an easier goal as you're likely to get in the final.
Hutchison, the provider of that one. In this mixed final, the UK Ultimate National Championships here from Highfield Sports Park in Nottingham.
Is the sun beginning? Is the sun trying to come out, Tom Styles?
I
think it might be.
Yeah, starting to see hints of blue amongst the fairly overcast skies. We had such a gorgeous day for Ultimate yesterday. Not too hot, but the sun baking down here on the turf. And Helen Thompson, sister of Becky Thompson, one of our favourite Ultimate commentators, and part of our regular crew. Ava Grossman. Helen and Becky, both from Canada, but currently in the UK for work and study reasons. Helen studying archaeology at Sheffield University for a doctorate. Tom Lees now to Grossman. Across to that far side. Eddie Codd. Thompson gets the disc back from a quick exchange from Bennett. Bennett's got it again. Tessa Hunt is lurking in the end zone. She's been handed off from the deep player in the zone as they switch to a one-on-one. Bennett to Lees to Thompson. Deep cut has gone. Great low release to Hunt on that far side from Thompson, and she busts up the line now. Hunt looks to try and find it but can't. Gets it back to Bennett. Bennett switches the play to this near side. It was a hard disc to catch, and Eddie Codd could not quite catch it.
Codd was disappointed in himself. He would back himself to make that catch. And SMOG, they transitioned into an end zone offense really nicely, but an unfortunate job. Might have let Deep Space back in this one.
So Deep Space fighting hard. Looking really strong with that zone defense preventing SMOG. Sam Vile looks upfield and sends it. It's got a balance, but is it drifting towards that far line? Can he keep his feet in? The team celebrate, but it's somewhat muted as the questions are asked. And Helen Thompson, no hesitation in pointing out of bounds, and I think our replay will confirm that is the right call.
It's always difficult for us as well because we're on the opposite sideline, especially for players laying out in that direction. It's difficult to see exactly where that last point of contact is. Mercifully for us, we have a slow-mo replay.
Let's have a look here. So last point of contact, well, I think that was on the line anyway.
Yeah.
There's no error. He was definitely flying before he made contact with the disc.
Yeah, there were a couple of steps on the line, and I mean, a valiant attempt, but...
Yes, he would have needed to take off and grab and hurl back behind himself to have any bid at all.
I mean, I would have loved to see it, but...
Let's name check. Was that Duncan? He's had a point and an assist in this game already, I think it was.
He's not afraid to throw himself around.
Tidswell. A little bit of jogging from Ava Grossman as she came out of the deep space. Flick downfield, Tidswell rises high above Vile, grabs with two hands, confident grab. Downfield now to Hunt. Hunt looks to continue the play and does so through Codd. Codd's got Tidswell waving, has got a lovely little backhand downfield to Thompson, and a pick has been called in the middle of the park.
Grossman had separation deep, and I think could well have been thrown to. Well, actually not quite deep already, so you've just got a smaller window to play with, smaller margin for error, so they're thinking, okay, we don't like it, we'll go short instead. But the separation was there, maybe just not quite in the right location.
Yeah, so it's a great thing to watch if you're a newcomer to the sport, is the timing of your deep cut. Just being deep isn't enough, as this disc from Thompson floats just long enough for Codd to get it, and he returns the disc back to Helen Thompson. Float forward now to Bennett. Bennett looks down the line to Hunt, who'd made a great cut but was well marked by deep space. Lees and Thompson exchanging discs once more. Lees continues to this near side. Tidswell bolts a cut. Ava Grossman got disc in hand again, who floats a blady shot. And the first point of contact was down inside the end zone for Eddie Codd, who's been involved in pretty much every single way he could be in this point. But in the end, it's him that catches the disc to take it to 13-10.
Some balletic footwork from Codd there. Utilised the break space well, that around backhand, outside in blade with the roll curve, taking it into Codd's path, and as you mentioned, lovely footwork there, towing in at the front of the end zone line to bring SMOG within 2 points of a national title.
Yes, it has been a fantastic weekend of Ultimate. So great to be back after the very obvious disruption over the last 18 months, and different format, a different tournament, very competitive. Even to get to UK Nationals these days, you have to be in the top 8 in your division. There's only 8 teams in Open, 8 teams in women, 8 teams in mixed, and that has forced. It means regionals are a big deal now, because you can't just walk in to nationals. I was chatting to Cy Hill about the change in the format, and he was very clear that looking back at the history of this event, it's those teams towards the bottom haven't really competed. They haven't really had a chance, a shot at getting up, whereas by cutting it to 8, it makes it a very competitive tournament. It makes regionals really matter as well. Finding a gap through is Connor Hogan. Just squeezing the disc past to Joyce. Dennison cutting. It's Vial instead. Deep shot downfield was available to Claire Baker. Baker's come back upfield now, and Dennison's got it in hand. Nina was streaking deep. Dennison tries to find her now down the line. It's a good high double-handed grab. Sends the fake, but contact is made.
Yeah.
Sam Chu.
And I think Naden's running through as well, because she's seen that there's a potential threat there. So she's trying to flash through that lane to kind of get in the way, but I think she got perhaps more in the way than she had anticipated.
Dennison has taken exact coordinates of where she was and sent her back there with clear instructions, and uses that freedom. Naden being out of position as a pick is called, and the disc goes back to Dennison. Layla Dennison, one of the outstanding young players in the UK, coming up through the ranks very quickly. Played for GB under 20 and under 24, and has been a big contributor to the deep space success this weekend. Sam Vial darting around deep. Gus Morse with disc in hand looks downfield. The stall count is getting high. He's going to have to send something, and a stall from Williams. He didn't jack it on 9. He just held on to it that moment too long, and very sad to see. So something's being waved downfield.
So I think after the stall, they have to stay where they were, and then the defense has to check it back, or the defense then has to check it. It has to be checked back in before everyone moves.
See a replay of that big bid.
And so full credit to Williams, A, for putting the pressure on with the bid, but as soon as he doesn't get it, he's springing back up, and he's so active on that force. He's getting arms and legs in the way, so there's no comfortable release point. The footwork is immaculate. He's shuffling back and forth. It's that little kind of crab sidestep. So you're never really over lunging and over committing. You're shuffling back and forth, and you're making a much more active mark. It's clamping, tight coverage downfield as well, and that's what gets the turn.
Williams providing that disc to Chu, who's been had a great second half here, very active with the disc. Back to Patterson now. Patterson's got Turton cutting, rangy legs, springing forward. Naden's available deep as well. Williams on the sideline. Changing direction from Patterson, but it's back to the centre of the field and into the end zone. And it's Emily McCabe who eats that up and scores for SMOG. They are within 1 of becoming the UK National Championships champions in the mixed division. A strong performance from the team in white. Deep spaces, heads go down, and they are calling a timeout to regroup from here, Benji.
I mean, the timing of the dump swing there, that motion it's atomic clock accurate from SMOG. It's right on the sideline, and then as soon as the handler makes the decision to take off and go up line, it's faked, and they're already in that position to hit the inside out into the middle. Hogan's a bit late, and the high release tossed backhand. McCabe has the freedom of this side of the end zone. Bang.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch,
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe. ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
fund
our
our
work
work.
to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
And we would very much appreciate any support you can offer to the ULTI.TV crew with your clicking the like button on the videos that we're putting together, and if you can afford to do so, you can become one of our Patreons and directly support the good work that the team here at ULTI.TV do around the UK, around Europe and around the world. All of the coverage will always be free to air, and they're good Ultimate people as well, as we are here in Nottingham for the UK Ultimate Championship and National Championships, and this is the final in the mixed division. SMOG from the north of England against Deep Space from London. SMOG in an absolute dominant position, but Deep Space trying to cling on to this game for one more point, and an incredible grab. Layla Dennison throws herself down on the ground. A hero maker of her past creates a fresh hero. Dennison with a grab for the ages.
Layla Dennison is so goddamn good. It's unreal, because this is a put that, you know, this is very much back your receiver, because the coverage is tight. We've seen deep shots go up and players bring it down with seemingly all the time in the world. That was not that. The defender was right on the shoulder, so it meant that the throw had to be quite far out in front, and it meant that Dennison had to lay, and oh my word, what a bid. I don't know how that she was able to cover the ground so quickly. She actually, when the disc goes up, she's maybe even a step shallow, but she's got the position to that side, and she's got the speed, and good lord, not only does she do so well to catch it with that dominant left hand. Love that she's not trying to go trailing edge. She's letting it go to let the spin take it into the hand, but landing kind of with such an impact, as you often do when you come at such high speed. It's so easy to kind of to ground strip it, especially when you don't have the time to properly adjust those wrists. So she has done phenomenally to keep that alive. Phenomenally.
And we've got to give major props to Nina for her assist. It's the second deep shot that she's provided to the Deep Space numbers. So the sideline cheering on the Deep Space defense as they come down here. Marius Hutchison taking initial position to try and stop Tom Lees, who's got the disc now. Also Tim Gilboy down there, arms spread wide from every Deep Space player. Tessa Hunt looks deep, resets to Lees. Lees got Callum Spears on this side. Gilboy providing the coverage. Hutchison. Great spread of the play across the field from SMOG. Keeping the disc safe, keeping the disc alive. Bit of a barge in the back from Hogan. Still with Lucy Hyde on the far side. Tom Bennett is the eventual recipient. Hyde to Bennett. SMOG invade the pitch. They are the gold medal winners in the mixed division here at the UK Ultimate National Championships. Deservedly so, with a 15-11 scoreline against Deep Space. The gold medals go north, and SMOG are the champions.
SMOG are the class of the UK's mixed division once more. Thoroughly good value for their win, not just in this game, but across the entire weekend. They were barely troubled, it seemed. That was the closest game they had all weekend in terms of the scoreline, and they won it 4 points clear. I mean, they've just gone from strength to strength to strength. The club has depth, which is always great to see. And, you know, their big players came through and had big games. And I think, you know, what's telling is that the stats were relatively evenly distributed. Perhaps, you know, maybe with the exception of Tom Bennett, who had 5 assists, as well as that winning score, and Tessa Hunt, who had an assist and 3 goals as well. But, like, you think about how good the team is. You know, Rachel Turton, phenomenal, had a relatively quiet game because she didn't need to. You know, like, there are so many players like that. Nick Williams was very good defensively, but didn't get a score or an assist. Like,
yeah.
Tom Lee's had a very quiet game relatively as well. Like, there are so many good players who you kind of feel like we weren't saying their names that much. Not only because other players were stepping up to the plate, but also because those players, they know that they don't have to take the weight of the team on them, because everyone on the team can contribute. And credit to Deep Space, who fought hard. They pushed them closer than they did in the pool play matchup, but in the end, SMOG just had too much for them, and they are very worthy winners and back-to-back national champions.
Yeah, congratulations to SMOG. I should also mention, Nick Williams, not a stat to his name, but he was a big contributor. Helen Thompson, big contributor with the disc. Erica Neve was involved a lot as well, but no stats to their names. But yeah, impressive performance from the team from the north. And thank you very much to everybody from UK Ultimate for helping put this fantastic championships on, despite all of the hassles they've had to deal with over the last year. The tournament format has changed a little bit, just 8 teams in it for the mixed division. But Benji, I think it's been a successful tournament, and how good has it been to be back together again?
I mean, honestly, this weekend has been like an absolute dream, with the exception of, swallowing a bucket full of frogs. I've loved it to bits. It's so good to be back, and the best part is we're not even done yet, Tom.
There's more to come, Benji. How is this so?
Well, we've got 3 divisions.
Oh yeah.
We've only played 2 finals.
Wow.
We've got another final on, and it is the first time this weekend we're going to be seeing Clapham take the field, as we have the open final, and Chevron Action Flash once more will try and knock out the heavyweight champions.
Well, we look forward to that. We would also like to say a big thanks to the ULTI.TV crew, Milan and Felix and Rob and Chips, who've been working the cameras and doing a great job. If you would like to support the amazing work that they do to bring you all this coverage, and they've had no end of technical hiccups yesterday that they've dealt with perfectly, and it's all been solid today, then you can do so. ULTI.TV, head down there, check out the Patreon, where you can support them directly with a small financial contribution each month. We'd love it if you could do that as we cap this game, and the SMOG winning of the gold medal with some of the highlights from the match. We've had loads of people watching on YouTube. We do appreciate all the people getting involved in the comments, and we'd like to say thank you to Patrick van der Valk, one of our latest Patreon subscribers, and Joram Mosnink, who has one of our big Patreon subscribers. Very much appreciate that. And I've got Milan here showing me all the latest people. Luca Miglioretto, one of the Swiss stars, who's
so some of the great and good of European Ultimate as well.
Yeah, Sheila Quintos, we very much appreciate your hard earned money, just coming a little bit towards ULTI.TV to support the coverage around the world. And Madex Patrick from Madex, who very much has been a big contributor. So let's see if we do that as well. More coverage coming at you live from Nottingham. Myself, Tom Stiles, and Benji Rees will be back for the open final, Clapham versus Chevron. So until then, we're going to take a short break, and congratulations to SMOG, gold in the mixed division.
ULTI.TV.
It's not easy, this. It's not easy.